Thank you, Steve. Great to be back in here. I hope all of you that had a Saturday off enjoyed your weekend off. I know some of you were covering Clemson or other games in the state of South Carolina, so no weeks off for you guys. I appreciate the grind that y'all have. But for those of you that did get a Saturday off, hope you enjoyed it. I know the bye week was great for us. Practiced Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday last week. And those were 3 productive days for us on and off the field as a staff and as a team to really reevaluate where we are and what we need to do to get where we want to go as the season goes on. Was great to reevaluate some personnel, schemes, you name it, and then got some really good work in on the field as well. Gave the players off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then most of Sunday. They needed to get away physically and mentally. It's been a long 5 weeks. It's been a grind. The month of August combined with that, really haven't had any days off. As a staff, we haven't. And the players, not much of one other than the Mondays that they have during the season. That's our mandatory day off. So it's good for everybody to get away. Got back in here on Sunday evening or Sunday late afternoon, had practice and meetings, and that was good. The energy has been really, really good. The work on the field Sunday night and today has been really, really good as well. So gave us a chance to get healthy and reset as we go down these last 7 games now that we're into October and then going into November. Also, got a big opportunity Saturday. Great to be back in Williams-Brice Stadium as well for a Saturday afternoon 3:30 game. SEC Network, going to be an awesome environment. Want to thank our fans. I know this thing was sold out already when the kickoff time was announced. So another example of how we have the greatest fans in all of America, and they showed it again with that. Home field environment has been awesome for us this season, and I know Saturday will be no different as we get our second SEC game of the year in Williams-Brice Stadium against a really good football team coming in here. They've 4-2 right now. Quarterback that transferred in is playing really well. He's completing over 80% of his passes in SEC football games, so I think he's 78 overall. But if you look at just the SEC games that he's played in against some pretty good defenses, he's completing over 80%. Really talented group of running backs, great vision, can run with power, can make you miss. Talented receivers, tight end that really had a great game Saturday against Vanderbilt. Talented offensive line, big and physical. Defensively, active in the front 7. Their defensive line is huge, athletic at linebacker, and then some elite players in the secondary as well. So they're a team that continues to get better each week. Played really, really well against Vanderbilt on Saturday in all 3 phases, and we'll have to play really, really well on Saturday. But like our team and like the way that we've worked today in practice and our mindset right now as we go into the last seven games of the season as well. So Colin, saw the news that you just announced that you're moving on, so wanted to thank you for everything that you've done for our program and how professional and great you are and all that you do. So best of luck. Going to miss you, and hopefully you're not going far in your next chapter also, but good luck to you. So David, questions? One thing that'll never change. David getting the first question.
Doesn't have to be that way. Appreciate it. Shane, if you could give us an update on Juice Wells and the rest of the injuries.
Yep, sorry, forgot all about that. The emotion of Colin leaving us got me sidetracked, David, on that one as well. So sorry, I got to regroup. Juice is I would say doubtful for this week. He met with the specialist this morning up in Charlotte. Just saw him in the training room a little bit ago when I got off the practice field. The injury is really healing well. On the fast track from a healing process. Certainly don't want to put Juice out there before he's ready, and don't want Juice going out there without the right mindset as well. So I think it clearly surely will be a week-to-week thing. It is healing at a really, really good pace. And nobody wants to be out there more than Juice, but I would say he's doubtful this week, but wouldn't 100% close the door on anything. And everybody else is really really good. Case and Henry won't play this week, but he is getting closer to being able to play. Hopefully by the end of the month, we'll see him back out there. It's every day I walk through the weight room on the way to the practice field, and you see Marquis Anderson in there. You see Jalen Nichols. You see Ryan Brubaker. You see Nye, who got hurt last week. So you see all these linemen and Kaysen as well, and makes you I'm like, man, there's half our O-line in here rehabbing on the way to the practice field. So it'd be nice to get some of those guys back. Kaysen's on track, and then defensively, really everybody is good. Spalding was limited last week with a wrist, but he practiced today and was fine, and really no limitations at this point for anybody.
When you look back to the Tennessee game and how they really focused on taking Leggett kind of out of it, I imagine a lot of teams will want to do that moving forward to you. Do you try and approach that more schematically to fight it, or is it just more about getting some of this depth back, like AB, back to more of a health out of the bye?
I think it's a little bit of everything. Certainly that's one thing I've told Juice. You'd love to have Juice out there right now where you got Juice and Leggett on both sides, and that's a problem for people as well. We don't, so now we've got to do a great job as coaches of taking advantage of whatever defenses are doing to us. So it was no secret, with the way Xavier played early in the season, teams are going to start doing that. Tennessee surely did. It wasn't like it was a shock when they did that as well. You've certainly got to be able to call plays offensively to attack, whatever coverage they're doing, that you can still get the ball to Xavier as well. If they are, quote unquote, doubling him or whatever it might be, that should open up some things in the run game for you as well, or other receivers. So I think every week is different how teams are going to defend you. We've got to do a great job of preparing for everything when we get into the game on Saturdays, do a great job of seeing what defenses are doing and how, we can adjust. But again, we've got a lot of good players on offense outside of Xavier Leggett, and it's our job as coaches to do a great job of utilizing them however we need to.
Shane, here you are halfway through season 3. How would you assess the state of the program right now, and is it about where you thought you would be when you first showed up here as head coach?
I think the state of the program is fantastic right now. Are we happy with being 2-3? No. Did we expect to be 2-3? No. Am I discouraged, or do I feel like we've had any kind of step back? No. Not to go back to the last 2 years, but based on the way most of you guys projected us the last 2 seasons, we, without a doubt, overachieved in 2021 and 2022. And now I think the natural progression that people think in their minds is, okay, they won 7, then they won 8, now they're just supposed to win 10 or 9, and we still may. Who knows? There's a lot of football left, but I look at just the big picture, Gene, as far as everything, where we were when I got here in December of 2020, what we've done from a culture standpoint, what we've done from a recruiting standpoint since we got here, the success that we've had on the field. And I get it. I mean, ultimately I'm judged season to season, but week to week. And you're judged on wins and losses. And right now in 2023, we're not good enough because we're 2-3. But, I also look at the big picture as far as the progress that we have made since we got here, the football that's still left to be played in this season as well. I see a group of guys that love being around one another in this program, players, coaches, and staff. I see the way they compete out there on the practice field. I see the guys I see the recruiting progress that we've made, where each year has been better and better from a recruiting standpoint. I see the young freshmen that we're playing right now. I see the young men that are seniors in high school right now that'll be a part of this program next year, as well as the guys that are juniors in high school right now that are really excited about what we're doing. So I couldn't be more fired up. Not necessarily fired up about being 2-3, but could not be more fired up about the future. And in my mind, I'm thinking long term, and again, I get it. You don't get like a 6-year rebuilding plan as well. I understand that you're coaching at the highest level and you're expected to win, but I also know how far we've come since December 2020, and that we're just scratching the surface of where we're going to be as a program also.
Shane, speaking about depth from a defensive standpoint, how valuable has Debo been, not just from a talent standpoint, but just being able to use him as much as you have? And number two, kind of going off from that, how important was this past week for a young guy like Pup Howard, and how much have you continued to see him grow as you look to probably provide some more depth at linebacker in particular?
Yeah, we need to play more guys on defense. We've talked about that. Part of the issue with us in the fourth quarter at Tennessee was Boogie and Tonko were playing literally every play with TJ out, and we got to get other guys to help those guys. Same thing at linebacker. We went from the North Carolina game where Stone, Blanton, and Debo played every snap in that game to now, Pup and Bam are playing. I think last game they played around 20 plays, and the other two played around 50 or so. So you'd love to get that number where all four of those guys are kind of rotating also. So to answer your first question, Debo's been fantastic. He's been a great leader for us, steady, at that position. We don't want to ask him or Stone to play every play of the game. And then the bye week was great for Bam. The bye week was great for Pup. Who else? Ronnie Porter is in that room. Andrew Colasurdo, Jaron Willis. There's some other young linebackers in there that bye week was good for as well to get those guys better, because we'd love to be able to get it where, not necessarily where the four of those guys are splitting reps, but where Bam and Pup can continue to play even more defensively, because if they're able to do that, now you're able to utilize all four of them on special teams, and Stone can get back to covering kicks and covering punts and things like that, which he hasn't done as much of this year. He and Debo both, who they were core special teams guys for us last year because of our depth at linebacker, and those other guys being a little slow to come along, we've not been using them as much on special teams. So it would be great. The more bodies you have, the more it helps offense, defense, and special teams.
Kind of stick with some of those young guys on defense. When you look at Dez and Xavier and Pup, are there specific things that you're kind of looking to see from them that will make you feel confident in their readiness for a game, and just kind of what does college readiness look like at this stage in the year for a freshman trying to get into the game?
Yeah, no, there's a fine line of saying, okay, let's simplify everything that we're doing so those guys can just get in there and go play. But then you also want to make sure you have enough defense where you can adjust, and you, Coach White may have, 6 defensive calls. Well, all 6 defensive calls would have an adjustment to this formation. And then if they lined up an empty, they got to adjust this way. And then if they lined up in a bunch set, you may adjust this way. And then if they line up with formation into the boundary, you have to adjust this way. Or they come out with a wildcat quarterback, you have this adjustment. So every call you have on defense is like times whatever, because there's adjustments, and that's just universal playing defense. So one, you got to, you want to make sure that those guys, especially at the linebacker position, because they're the ones that are typically making calls and helping the defensive linemen not helping them get lined up, but communicating checks and things like that along with the secondary. So you've got to be able to do that. They've got to continue to show that. But then we also need to make sure that we're doing a good enough job of, as coaches, of not asking these guys to do too much and being able to get them out there and let them go play. And then they've got to be able to show that in practice with the techniques and the fundamentals and the effort that you want to see, where if they're responsible for the B gap, whether it's a defensive tackle or the linebacker, they own the B gap and they get off blocks and they can tackle and things like that as well. But, we talked about it as a staff last week or maybe on Sunday when we got back. One thing we talked about was, we're not necessarily going to win games down the stretch because we just out-scheme everybody. Yes, schematics are important, offense, defense, and special teams. We got to make sure that we are playing with, great technique and great fundamentals and great effort and great physicality, and allow our players, our best guys, let's get them out there and allow them to go do that. So we've got to see the fundamental things in practice. We got to see the knowledge of everything, but then also we need to make sure that we're allowing them to go play fast and do those things by not asking them to do too much. Hope that answers your question. I know. Okay.
Hey, Shane, we had a couple of players in here, and they talked about the benefits of the bye week of rest and healing. And in your opening statement, you talked about how you wanted them to get away and clear their minds mentally. Is this something that is stressed more these days, especially because there's so much outside stuff with social media, more than when you were a player, more when your dad was coaching?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that you realize that it's prevalent, and it's with young children, young people growing up. I'm a dad of 3 and got 2 teenage daughters, and then when you're in college, all the things that are coming at these guys from a social media standpoint. We go in the locker room after games, Rick, and I get done talking to them, and they usually go to their lockers, and the first thing they do, pull out their phones and look at text or social media or whatever it might be. And that was here, that was Oklahoma, that was wherever for sure. So I think that's critically important to make sure that you have a great balance. And we got some guys on our team Saturday that probably watched college football all day, and we got some guys that probably didn't watch a snap of football and just wanted to get away from it. And both of them are okay, because I think you got to keep in mind, we went to dinner here in Columbia. Emily and I did, my wife and I, with a couple friends on Tuesday night last week, and 6 of the players were at the restaurant that we were eating at here in town, and they came up to the table afterwards to say hello. And when they left, the couple that we were with made the comment that they're kids. And they're not so much kids, they're young men, but they're 18, 19 young men that have 18, 19, 20-year-old young men issues, just like anybody else at that age. And I know everybody sees them out there on Saturdays as, in the garnet and black, and there's great responsibility that comes with that, but also making sure that we, everyone that's watching them realize too that they're college students just like everybody else, and they have problems just like everybody else also. So certainly on the off weekend, it was good for everyone. Me to get away from it, and then the players and coaches as well to be able to come back in here and refresh and ready to go on Sunday, because it is a long season, and you want to make sure you're at your best as you go forward.
Shane, what's your relationship with Billy? I'm guessing you two crossed paths a bunch when you were here working in the state as assistants, and through the years we're on similar tracks to where you are now.
I'd say the relationship is good. He was at Clemson when I was at South Carolina. Obviously, he was, I think 2010 was my last year here, and I believe he was the coordinator that year at Clemson. So he was the coordinator, and he was an assistant coach or involved with the program most of the years that I was here, at South Carolina. So I knew him because we were both assistant coaches, here at South Carolina and he at Clemson during that time. And then, certainly followed him from afar when he went to Alabama, then Arizona State, and then followed his success at Louisiana, and then really just probably reconnected when we both, came back to the SEC. So see each other at, SEC meetings and things like that as well. So a lot of respect for the job that he did at Louisiana and what he's doing at Florida also, and then the job he did at Clemson when he was up there working for Dabo also.
On both lines of scrimmage, I guess things are a little in flux with a few of the guys there, whether it's a guard or right tackle or whatever. Can you share what's going on with those two spots, or maybe you're trying to sit on that till this weekend?
I can't.
Please.
We certainly reevaluate everything and look at personnel and things like that as well. We have to play and coach better on the offensive line at every position, center, guard, tackle, really everywhere on offense for sure. And part of the bye week was being able to step back and kind of reevaluate everything and think outside the box a little bit, and maybe the same 5 out there Saturday. It may be, an adjustment, but let's just get the 5 guys out there and get some continuity where, whatever we do, let's get these 5 guys out there and let's go with them, because it's hard on the offensive line when you're, shuffling guys in and out each and every week.
And Drew Tuazama obviously wasn't on the trip to Tennessee. Is he?
Who? I'm sorry.
Drew Tuazama?
Yes.
Is he still,
He's
going
back.
to be an active
He's
part of the team and all that? Or?
No, he's good. It was, we just something personal reason that he didn't go on that trip. We were both on board and both on the same page with why he didn't go on the trip. He had a great week of practice last week. Did some good stuff today in practice. Just met with him in my office, as a matter of fact, about an hour ago. He's in a great frame of mind, great spirit as well. And then going back to David's injury question, Ja'Kai, I forgot to mention Ja'Kai. Ja'Kai's good too. He didn't play or didn't go to Tennessee with an injury. He should be good to go this Saturday also. So getting him back on the offensive line will be big.
You talked a couple times coming out of Tennessee about needing to be more detail-oriented, some receiver routes, some positions, things like that. What goes into fixing that during a bye week, and do you feel like you saw the progress you needed to from detail perspective during the bye week?
Yeah. Detail to me is every position, and there's the margin of error is small in the SEC, but it gets really small for us just with some of the injuries we've had and things like that. Also, there's not a very big margin of error. So there's no such thing as a little thing, but those little things are really, really important. And it may be running a route at the right depth, and that was an issue against Tennessee. It may be taking the proper depth or proper drop at quarterback and not taking an extra step where now you're too far or too far back or too close to the offensive line in the pocket. Or it might be, you're the tight end and you're responsible for cutting off the gap inside of you, and you don't get your hat inside of the defensive end. So now you lose on that block. Or getting out of a gap at defensive tackle, or you're a safety and you're supposed to be on top of the ball 10 yards deep when the ball snapped, and instead you're over the tackle 12 yards deep and a run spits out of there for an explosive play. So to me, the detail things are everywhere. You go back and you just constantly, harp on it. You make sure you look at what you're doing offensively and defensively, and making sure you're not if you're having those mistakes, you're not doing a good enough job of coaching it. So let's reevaluate how we're teaching a certain technique or scheme. And then for us, the bye week was good too, to be able to go back. And I know, Dow, I guess, comes in here tomorrow. He can talk about it. But offensively, they went back and we looked at every negative run sack that we've had and what caused it. And a lot of it wasn't necessarily a mental error. It was just a, poor technique or whatnot, which to me is detail. And, let's go back and really, really, really hone in on the details and the techniques. And that's what we did in practice last week. We didn't do any scout team work. It was all good work against each other, but a lot of competitive, one-on-one technique, fundamental things too.
Shane, this team has recently been pretty good about coming back after a bye, getting a win when needed and things like that. How do you as a coach kind of approach that? What is there like something different about coming back? Does it feel like it's a fresh start that first time? What do you kind of see when you think of like going into that first game after a bye week?
I don't know, because it's two different spectrums. 2 years ago, we had just gotten the crap kicked out of us by Texas A&M. And then that was a reset. Let's come back, and we're better than what we just showed in College Station on Saturday night. Let's get better this week. And then we got a great opportunity with Florida coming to Florida coming to town. That was 2 years ago. Last year had a huge win over Kentucky on the road at night. And now you got an off week of everybody telling you how great you are, but you got Texas A&M coming to town. Let's continue to build on this. So we don't talk so much about the previous game. We didn't talk anymore about Tennessee after we got back and met on Sunday after we got back from Knoxville. Bless you. We don't spend a lot of time last week talking about Florida. We introduced them a little bit. For us, it was probably more along what you're saying, like just kind of a reset of here's where we are, here's the things we're doing well 5 games in, here's the things we're not doing well, here's things that we need to do more of, less of, players that maybe need to play more, maybe play a little bit less. Just really step back, see everything, get refreshed. We had the same schedule the last 2 years that we used this past week, where we practiced Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and gave everybody a long weekend off. And I think there was certainly a good reset of being able to step back and kind of see where we are. We're not happy about being 2-3, but we also look at the big picture and what's in front of us still. Let's learn from the past and get better going forward. And that's really what we've done the last 2 years. I think this is the earliest we've had the open week, I believe. My first year, it was later in the year. Last year was middle of October, if I'm not mistaken. And then this year's been a little bit early, but it's the same thought process both years, and then this year as well.
Just want to get your opinion on this. Your friend Mark Stoops on his call-in show last night said, quote, "I can promise you, Georgia, they bought some pretty good players. You're allowed to these days. We could use some help. end quote. Just wondering how you feel about one of your rival coaches talking so openly about buying players, and are coaches sort of, generally speaking, kind of letting their hair down when it comes to now talking about NIL and just flat out buying players? Is that an image that college football needs?
I was waiting for somebody to ask me that. I'm shocked it was you, Phil, as well. Great question, though, and it is a great question. I did see that comment last night from Coach Stoops. I don't know. I can't speak for his program. I can't speak for the Georgia program, but NIL is certainly a major factor, not just in college football, but all across college athletics right now in every sport, whether it be with Coach Staley and her women's team, or Coach Paris, or Coach Kingston, or Bill McDonald and Kaylin Anderson on golf, and on and on and on. I mean, I can name all the sports here at Carolina. NIL is part of it, and particularly with young men and women that are transferring from a school for different reasons as well. And all I would say is it's something that we're going to be very active in. I want what's best for our players. I'll make every phone call, speak to every group I possibly can when it comes to raising money for our guys from an NIL standpoint. The Garnet Trust here, after both wins this year, if you've noticed on social media, as soon as I meet with you guys after the games, I go and meet with the post-game radio with Todd Ellis, jump in the shower, and then walk outside to the 50-yard line at Williams-Brice and tape our weekly television show, which I hope everybody's tuning into on Sunday nights on television, and then Sunday mornings, I think, on Bally Sports. But then as soon as that's over, the last both home games, or both wins this year, I've done something for the Garnet Trust, and made a video that we pumped out on social media encouraging fans to give. And that is the name of the game. And whether you agree with NIL, don't agree with NIL, if you want to win at the highest level and you want to win championships like we do here at Carolina, we're going to have to be very active from an NIL standpoint, collective standpoint, and that is the Garnet Trust for us. So we've got some people that have done some great things for our student athletes, and thankful for them. And frankly, we need more of them as well. So absolutely, I hear Coach Stoops and what he's saying, and I'm grateful for our fans and every amount of money that they give to this university, this football program, paying money to come to games at Williams-Brice Stadium. But for those that have the ability to give, we need you for sure.
Shane, you mentioned reevaluating personnel and scheme in the bye week. Not asking you to reveal state secrets, but as you kind of did a quality control assessment, what do you feel like were some of the biggest takeaways for you and the staff as you move forward to the final 7 games?
Defensively, I don't know if we got to play better and coach better in all 3 phases. I'll say that we're not far off. It's not like we're going into games and just getting our butts kicked in our 3 losses. We've been leading at halftime. I think UNC. We were down at halftime, tied at halftime. I can't remember. Down three at halftime, beating Georgia at halftime, and then the Tennessee game was a 7-point game, and then we had the turnover before the half. So we've gone into the second half of all those games. It's not like we've been out of it at halftime, being stretching the imagination. So for one, we've got to do a better job of finishing. And to me, probably it's a big picture, but we've got to be better. Situational football, offense and defense particularly. When we get teams in third down, our defense, we got to get off the field. When we're in third down offensively, we got to stay on the field. If you look at us offensively, we've had too many drives that have stalled out around that 40-yard line going in. Happened twice against Tennessee, I guess. The 4th and 1 we got stopped, and then the 4th and 3 after the fake punt that we got stopped. UNC, we had the 4th down, the first drive of the second half that we didn't convert on 4th down, and then we had 3 drives in the 4th quarter where we were inside the 22-yard line, and I think we got 3 points out of it or something. So for us, it's really we got to finish drives offensively when we get in plus territory. That's one thing that jumped out. Be better technique-wise, and then defensively. It's just continuing to just develop depth and issues where we just got to continue to play guys. And are there things from a schematic standpoint that we need to be doing, differently as well in all three phases to help our guys. And it was good too because I was able to sit down last week. I met with I think 15 of our players last week individually, just kind of talking to them about their mindset, and there may be things that I don't see, things that I'm missing that I wanted them to be able to talk to me freely about as well. And that was some good meetings that I had with some of our guys last week to help us going forward also.
Shane, Clayton's talked a lot about trying to improve the tackles for loss. That, in the course of a game, you probably get 4 or 5 anyway, but
Right.
the numbers have been down. How do you emphasize that in practice? And as a quick follow, is TJ Sanders okay?
TJ's okay. Yeah, he was limited last week coming off the injury he had in the Tennessee game, but he did everything today in practice and did it well, so he's fine. Tackles for loss, it's a fine line. We've got to win one-on-ones, and, I've talked about that. You look back at the Tennessee game, though, most of Tennessee's passes was going to be a 7-man protection. They kept the tight end in, and they kept the running back in, so they're blocking. If we're rushing 4, they're blocking our 4 with 7, and so they've got odds. There's double teams in there, but somebody's blocked one-on-one, so we've got to win those one-on-ones. When we do bring pressure's got to get home. We had some pressures called against Tennessee that we didn't get there, and then quarterback either scrambles or throws the ball downfield when we called a pressure, trying to create some negative plays. So I think it's a combination of, schematically what you're calling and win, but then also no matter what you call, somebody's got to be able to, get off a block and win those one-on-ones also, which I've seen a lot of our guys. We've had two defensive tackles be SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week already this season as well. So it's not like we're just getting steamrolled in there as well, but certainly we need to win more one-on-ones. And it's not just the D tackles, the production from the defensive end position. Certainly Jordan Strawn had the strip sack against Mississippi State, but we need more of that going down the stretch also for sure.
Are you bringing up with the guys last year's Florida game at all as motivation, or is it very much the message to them, new teams, new year, new game?
I haven't mentioned it one time and don't plan on it. It's last year. Anthony Richardson's, thank God, playing for the Colts now, and that was a long night in Gainesville, and give them credit. They did a great job. They had a great game plan, and we did not do much, at all other than a cool fake punt to DK as well. We have to, protect the ball better than we did that night. 3 turnovers to start the second half is not a recipe for success. Giving up explosive runs like we gave up defensively is not a recipe for success. So they may be watching it just because, it's a new defensive coordinator for them. But so there are some schematic changes, but it's the same special teams, same offense as well. So our coaches in their meetings may be watching tape just to, refer back to it. But I haven't mentioned it one time with the coaching staff, and I haven't mentioned last year's game one time with the team, and don't plan on it either.
Shane, I know we're anticipating this coming question here too.
Anytime you take a deep breath before you ask the question, it's kind of like buckle up.
About a week ago, the Oregon State AD, and you may know where he's coming from, suggested the idea of relegation, soccer style for college football, where if you don't do so well in Power 5, you go down to Group of 5. You're the best Group of 5 teams. You get to come up to Group of 5. Your thoughts?
Hadn't anticipated that question, Gene. I wish I had. I'm not trying to dodge the question. I did watch Ted Lasso this summer and knocked out all series, so I'm familiar with relegation. Relegation, right? Did I say that right? I'm familiar with it from seeing Ted Lasso, and I understand what it is. I did see those comments. I don't know. I could probably do a little bit more research on it and give you a better answer. I did see that. I could maybe understand where he's coming from that standpoint. People get moved up, moved down, all that as well. It'll certainly, force schools, athletic departments to really commit to, how good do you want to be, and resources and things like that as well. My question, I don't know if he was speaking to football specific or if he was talking to all sports at the university in general. I think that's tough. If you're a Group of 5 school and you're really good in this sport, but you're terrible in the other sports, you get bumped up or not bumped up. So there's a lot of things. So I I saw the comments, didn't really dive into it. I had other things going on as well, but at least I'm familiar with that. Most of our coaches probably wouldn't even know what relegation is if you asked them, but I do know from Ted Lasso. Good. All right, thank y'all.